Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh everyone. My name is Raja Ashraf bin Raja Samsul Adi. ID number SIT240700234. Today I will be explaining about inflation and elaborate about the different types of inflation. So, what is inflation? Inflation is a continuous increase in the general price level of goods and services in the economy. So what does this mean? It means that when inflation happens, things will cost more than they used to be, and the value of money will decrease. This means that a given amount of money can buy fewer goods and services than before the inflation happened. There's two causes of inflation, the demand pull inflation and the cost push inflation. The demand pull inflation occurs when demand for goods and services exceeded the demand for supply. This is caused by an increased consumer spending, government expenditure, and also easy to access credit. For example, during an economic growth, people have more income or more money to use that will lead to increased demands and raising prices. When the demand is increased, the price is also increased. For cost push inflation, it occurs when production cost rises, forcing business to increase price. This is caused by higher wages, increased raw material costs, supply chain disruption. For example, a rise in the oil prices makes transportation and production more expensive, leading to higher price for goods. So what are the different types of inflation other than the commonly known inflation? There's deflation, which also known as negative inflation. This is a direct opposite of inflation. It is a decrease in the general price level of goods and services in the economy. For example, Japan has experienced periods of deflation that leads to slow economic growth. Then there's stagflation, the condition in an economy where it experiences high unemployment and rapid inflation simultaneously. For example, the 1970s oil crisis led to stagflation in many countries. And last but not least, there's disinflation, a reduction in the rate of inflation, which also means that slower inflation growth. For example, if inflation drops from 6% to 3%, prices are still increasing, but at a slower pace. It's like a slower version of inflation. Alright, that's all from me. Thank you so much for spending your time to listen to my explanation.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Ahmad Irfan bin Fazli. My ID number is SIT240700001. Today I will discuss the factors and causes of inflation in Malaysia based on Bank Negara Malaysia 2025 projections. Malaysia's inflation is expected to range between 2% and 3.5% in 2025, influenced by both domestic policies and global economic conditions. There are two main types of inflation: demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. In Malaysia, both play a significant role in driving price increases. The first major cause of inflation is demand pull inflation, which occurs when there is an increase in consumer demand that exceeds supply. When people have more money to spend, businesses experience higher demand for goods, which leads to price increases. In Malaysia, one of the factors contributing to demand pull inflation is increase in the minimum wage. When wages rise, workers have more disposable income, leading to higher spending. Another key factor is fuel subsidies, specifically the targeted RON 95. When fuel is subsidized, transportation costs remain lower, allowing people to spend more on other goods and services. The expansion of the sales and service tax SST also influenced demand pull inflation. As businesses anticipate higher costs due to the tax, consumers may rush to purchase goods before price rise, temporarily increasing demand. The second cause of inflation is cost push inflation, which happens when the cost of production increase, forcing businesses to raise prices to maintain profitability. Unlike demand pull inflation, which is driven by consumer spending, cost push inflation originates from the supply side. A major factor affecting cost push inflation in Malaysia is the rise in the diesel price, which increased by 20.1%. Since transportation costs affect almost every industry, higher fuel prices make it more expensive to deliver goods. These costs are passed down to consumers, leading to overall price increases. Another example is the increase in vehicle insurance costs by 0.8%. While this may seem small, insurance is a necessary expense for business logistics expenses. Higher insurance costs leading to increased operating expenses, which businesses compensate for by raising price. Global factors also play a role in cost push inflation. Fluctuation in global commodity prices such as crude oil, wheat and palm oil impact Malaysia's economy. If global prices rise to supply chain disruptions, war or geopolitical issue, Malaysia will experience higher import costs, driving up the price of everyday goods. Last but not least, disruption in global supply chain can increase production costs. If key raw materials take longer to arrive or become more expensive due to shipping delays, businesses may face shortages, forcing the business to raise prices to balance supply and demand. In summary, while inflation is a natural part of any economy, a balance between stimulating economic growth and controlling inflation is necessary to ensure a long-term economic stability. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ahmad Shahiduddin Bishop Fazal. My ID number is SIT24070002 and I will be answering question 3. So, discuss with a relevant example how inflation impact on individuals, society's welfare and standard of living in Malaysia. So the first one is individual. As prices of goods and services rises, the same amount of income will buy fewer items. For example, the cost of goods such as rice, cooking oil and petrol increases in Malaysia. So middle and low income are extremely affected because most of their income is spent on necessities. This will also affect their purchasing power, resulting to slow economic growth. More and lower income will. The second way is society's welfare. This will greatly affect to those with fixed income such as retirees because they will face a greater financial pressure as their income cannot match with the rises of costs. This is resulting to the fixed income will hardly meet the daily needs such as food, clothes, and utility, water like electricity because of the rises of costs. So they cannot match with the rise of costs. The last one is standard of living. The quality of life will decline as people will not spend on something that are unnecessary, such as leisure activities, traveling and dining out. Furthermore, people will be discouraged to invest and saving, leading to slow economic growth in Malaysia. This is also resulting into maybe in the future many households will have limited education and medical expenses because of the sudden rises of costs. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Muhammad Danish Nabil and today I'll be discussing how Malaysia is controlling inflation through Budget 2035. inflation is projected to range between 2.0% and 3.5% in 2025, which is relatively stable compared to the global trends. This stability is due to smart policy measures designed to balance price stability and economic growth. The government approach focuses on targeted intervention that minimize inflationary pressures while supporting the economy. Let's go through these key policy measures. First, targeted fuel subsidies. Malaysia is reforming subsidies for RON 95 petrol to make them more focused and effective. Instead of blanket subsidies, this approach ensures that only those who truly need assistance receive it. For example, although diesel prices rose by 20.1%, effective enforcement measures minimize the impact on other goods and services. This targeted approach helps save many government funds and prevent inflation from spreading throughout the economy. It also encourages more efficient fuel usage and reduces the fiscal burden on the government. By reducing unnecessary subsidies, Malaysia can redirect resources to more critical sectors. Next is the expansion of the Sales and Service Tax (SST). By widening the scope of SST, the government aims to increase revenue while reducing dependence on subsidies. These measures enhance fiscal stability and helps control inflation by using public funds more efficiently. It also supports economic growth by ensuring that revenue collection is more consistent and sustainable. By broadening SST coverage, the government can balance its budget without overly burdening the public. This policy move is crucial for maintaining economic resilience in a changing global landscape. Another key measure is the minimum wage policy. Budget 2025 includes adjustment to the minimum wage to support private consumption and boost economic growth. Higher wages increase purchasing power, leading to greater demand for goods and services. However, there is always a concern that wages increases might lead to inflation. Interestingly, past data shows that previous wage hikes had minimal impact on inflation. This demonstrates that rising wages can stimulate the economy without significantly driving up prices. It also helps reduce income inequality and supports social stability. By carefully adjusting the minimum wage, the government strikes a balance between economic growth and price stability. Finally, Malaysia is actively managing external risks. Inflation can be influenced by global price changes and supply chain disruption. But the government is prepared to handle this challenge despite global uncertainties. Inflation remained stable at 1.9% in Question 3, 2024, showing the effectiveness of Malaysia's policies. This stability was achieved through diversified policy measures that reduce dependency on the external market. For instance, by diversifying import sources, Malaysia minimized the impact of global supply chain disruption. This proactive approach ensures that Malaysia is well positioned to maintain price stability even volatile international market. To conclude, Malaysia is effectively controlling inflation through targeted fuel subsidies, SST expansion, minimum wage adjustment, and external risk management. These proactive policies provide a balanced approach to economic growth and price stability. With continuous monitoring and smart adjustment, Malaysia is set to maintain economic stability in 2025 and beyond. Thank you for watching, and I hope this overview helps you understand how Malaysia is managing inflation.